Alright, deep breath, we need to talk, and after 9 years, after countless theories, after growing up alongside these characters, Stranger Things just ended, and I'm sitting here trying to process what the hell just happened to my emotion.
One last time.
Hey everyone, before we dive into this, yes, this is full spoilers for the Stranger Things Season 5 finale. If you haven't watched it, leave now. Seriously, this is your last warning. Now, for those of you who stuck around after my Volume 2 review, you know I had concerns, real concerns. Volume 2 felt messy, rushed in places, and I was genuinely worried the Duffer Brothers were gonna fumble this landing harder than a Demogorgon on roller skates. But here's what I need to say right off the bat. They didn't fumble, they soared. This finale reminded me why I fell in love with this show back in 2016. Let's break down why this worked, where it stumbled, and what that ending really means. Hit that like button if you're still processing your emotions, subscribe for more deep dives, and let's get into it. Before we praise the finale, let's address the elephant in the room. Volume 2 was problematic. The pacing felt off, characters were spinning their wheels. The whole exotic matter bridge explanation felt like the writers were frantically gluing together plot holes at the last minute. Holly's subplot, while visually interesting, didn't carry the emotional weight it should have, and don't even get me started on how sidelined Joyce and Murray fell. I went into this finale with a checklist in my head. Does Vecna's plan actually make sense now? Will the Mind Flayer payoff feel earned? Can they stick the emotional landing with 11? Will the deaths feel meaningful or cheap? Volume 2 made me doubt they could pull any of this off. It felt like a show buckling under the weight of its own mythology, trying to be too many things at once. But you know what? The finale proved that Volume 2 wasn't bad storytelling, it was incomplete storytelling. Everything that felt disjointed suddenly clicked into place. The bridge theory essential, the kids in Vecna's lair, heartbreaking payoff, the military subplot actually mattered. Sometimes you need that final puzzle piece to see the whole picture, and the finale was that piece. And let's talk about how this finale starts, because it sets the tone for everything. We open with silence, just quiet dread, the calm before the apocalypse, and then we're immediately thrown into Operation Beanstalk in motion. Not in planning, not in exposition dumps, but happening. Trucks rolling, weapons loading, 11 being prepped for the sensory deprivation tank. This is cinematic Stranger Things at its fine. It feels less like a TV episode and more like the climax of a blockbuster trilogy. The lighting, the score, the way the camera lingers on each character's face like it might be the last time we see them alive. This is tension. And then we get the Hopper and 11 moment that I wasn't ready for. Hopper's speech isn't some generic "you can do this" pep talk. It's a father confronting the reality that he's sending his daughter to war. The way David Harbour delivers those lines, "Life's been so unfair to you, your childhood was taken," you can see him barely holding it together. This isn't Hopper the tough guy, this is Hopper the broken dad who already lost one daughter and knows he might lose another. What destroys me about this scene is what's not said. Hopper knows Kaylee's plan, he knows Kaylee wants 11 to stay behind when the bridge collapses, and he's wrestling with whether to stop it or let 11 make that choice herself. That internal conflict, wanting to protect her versus respecting her agency, that's real parenting. That's the kind of emotional complexity that elevates this from fun 80s nostalgia show to genuine drama. And 11, Millie Bobby Brown, has been criticized in the past for limited dialogue, for relying too much on the sad telekinetic girl archetype. But this finale shows her range. The fear, the determination, the acceptance of what might be her final mission, it's all there in her eyes. Okay, can we just take a moment to appreciate how terrifying the Mind Flayer looked when that thing emerged in Dimension X, that writhing cosmic horror, that spider god made of shadow and malice? I got legitimate chill. This wasn't just good CGI, this was design. The way it moved, the way reality seemed to distort around it, the way you could feel its intelligence, watching, calculating, hating. Here's what I love about the Mind Flayer's return. It validates everything from season 2 and 3. Remember when people complained those seasons felt disconnected from the overall plot? That the Mind Flayer was just a big scary monster with no deeper meaning? And that twist that Henry Creel thought he was controlling the Mind Flayer, but it was controlling him the entire time since that cave in 1959, that's dark. That recontextualizes his entire character. He's not just evil, he's infected, corrupted, a child who touched something ancient and malevolent and lost himself forever. But here's the crucial part. The show doesn't use this as an excuse for his actions. The Mind Flayer gave him power, yes, but Henry chose how to use that power. He chose cruelty. He chose control. He chose to become Vecna. Some fans wanted a redemption arc. They wanted Henry to turn against the Mind Flayer at the last second to help the kids, to find some shred of humanity. And I'm so glad they didn't do that, because that would undermine everything. Vecna has tortured and killed. He's destroyed lives. He's literally tried to merge dimensions to reshape reality into his twisted vision. You don't get to come back from that with a last-minute face turn. Evil exists. Sometimes it's born from trauma, from infection, from corruption, but it's still evil, and it needs to be stopped, not redeemed. The final battle is chaos in the best way possible. We've got multiple fronts happening simultaneously. 11 in Vecna's mindscape, the kids climbing the radio tower into the abyss, Nancy and Jonathan fighting demobats in the upside down, Hopper and Murray holding off the military, Joyce heading toward Vecna's physical body with that axe. This could have been a confusing mess, but the editing is so tight. We always know where everyone is, what they're trying to do, what's at stake. The cross-cutting between locations builds momentum instead of killing it. And the stakes, oh man, the stakes. When Steve gets grabbed by that Demogorgon and dragged under, I genuinely thought he was dead. The show commits to that moment. No quick rescue, we sit with it, we watch Dustin scream, we feel that loss, and then Steve comes back bloody and broken but alive, and I didn't know whether to cheer or cry. That's what Volume 2 was missing, that sense of genuine danger. Characters were in peril constantly, but it never felt real. The finale fixes that. Every close call feels like it could be the end. Nancy running out of bullets and having to fight hand to hand with a demo dog. Terrifying. Lucas using his body to shield Max from falling debris, heart stopping. Will using his connection to the hive mind, knowing it might fry his brain, devastating. But the moment that breaks me, and I mean shatters me, is Kaylee's sacrifice. Kaylee has always been a controversial character. Her season 2 episode was divisive. A lot of fans hated it, thought it was filler, wanted her written out of the show entirely, but bringing her back in season 5 and giving her this ending, genius. She uses her illusion powers one final time to make the military, the scientists, the world believe 11 died in the collapse. She stays behind, holds the illusion even as the bridge disintegrates and falls into the void screaming 11's name. It's a redemption that feels earned. Kaylee spent years bitter, angry, using her powers for revenge, but in the end she uses them for love, to give her sister, her real family, the freedom she never had. That's beautiful. That's tragic. That's the kind of character work that elevates everything. We need to talk about Joyce Byers getting the kill. When Vecna's physical body is weakened, when 11 has torn him apart from the inside, when he's vulnerable for the first time, Joyce walks in with that axe, and she doesn't hesitate. One swing, head clean off, done. The symbolism here is everything. Joyce has been the protector from day one, the mother who would tear apart dimensions to save her son, the woman who refused to accept that Will was dead even when everyone else gave up. She's fought monsters, Russians, government conspiracies, the Upside Down itself, and now she ends the threat that started it all. And this final act, closing the rift, severing the connection between dimensions, ending the cycle she started in 1983 that requires the ultimate sacrifice. Mike's story about believing isn't about whether she physically survived. It's about whether her spirit, her impact, her love continues, and it does, in Max finding happiness, in Will finding acceptance, in all of them living the lives she fought to protect. That's the real magic, not telekinesis or dimension hopping, but love that transcends death. So do I believe she's alive? Maybe not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, she's with them forever. So my question to you, do you believe? Do you think 11 survived? What did you think of Joyce getting the kill? Was Kaylee's sacrifice satisfying? Let's discuss in the comments, and thanks for being on this journey with me. Thanks for watching these kids grow up. Thanks for believing in the strange and the impossible. Until next time, stay classy and never stop believing in math.